Good morning, everyone. I hope you are having a beautiful morning today. I am Deb Burton, the founder and creator of RI Elder Info, and this is my show, Friday Friends, where I interview usually nonprofits, not always, but usually nonprofits who are doing some really cool stuff out there that people need to know about. Would not be possible to do this without the support of our sponsors. We have Oak Street Health. They do primary care for adults with Medicare. Great program. Check them out, Oak Street Health. And for the month of November, we have had Raytheon and Cross Country Mortgage supporting our work. Our entire month of November has been dedicated to veterans resources. 11/11 was Veterans Day, but we like to make sure that we cover the entire month because there really are a lot of resources out there. And we have a lot of veterans here in Rhode Island. So we have 9,000, give or take, World War II and Korean veterans, 21,000 Vietnam veterans, about 15,000 Gulf War, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation New Dawn, and Operation Enduring Freedom veterans. And they all need the information that's being shared this month, as well as the information that was shared on Calling All Veterans Day. So I hope that you hit the like button down there and the share button so that we can reach people who need the information necessary. So one of the things that's happening in the world is we've got this virus going on, and we're really praying that the cavalry is coming with this vaccine. And I liken it to a world war, World War II specifically, where we all have to work together to be able to survive. And so, I was looking for some tape regarding World War II, and I found right here in Rhode Island, down in Wakefield, the World War II Foundation, and Tim Gray, world-renowned and award-winning documentary filmmaker. And I'm going to share a little clip. I hope you go to World War II Foundation. It's super interesting. I'm going to share a little clip about what it was like at home during World War II. So Ben, if you could roll the tape.
One day I was walking by the employment office in Waltham. I lived in Waltham when I was working at Raytheon, and they had a notice in the window that a man would be coming up to search for employees at the Fall River shipyard, people that would like to start working there, producing their products there. And one of them would be welding, not Rosie the Riveter exactly, because we're not putting rivets in ships at that time. Probably they were a few years before. So I decided I'd go in and talk to the man, and sure enough, he talked me into applying for a job in 5 minutes. I went to the Fall River shipyard, and they said, we'll send you to school 3 days. You'll learn how to weld overhead, vertical, and horizontal, which I did in 3 days, graduated with honors. And that's how I happened to start at the shipyard. I first started in the vent shop, welding, tacking for the welders, and then for ventilation in the ships. It was a certain section. Then I went in the steel mill where we were working on sections that were picked up to take out on the ways. Then I went out on the water to work, and I worked everywhere. The superstructure, in the engine room, ICC room, welding, all by myself for 8 hours a day. They just put you on a job in the morning, you stayed there all day.
So I hope if you want to hear more of her story, it really is amazing, that you go visit the World War II Foundation.org. What he's doing over there is really cool. So today, we're going to talk about something that is not necessarily pleasant, but needs to be discussed, and needs to be discussed openly, because right now it's the holiday season, and there's a lot of people who are really stressed out, and really have some concerns. And my guest today helps people with a very critical need. And I'm going to let him talk more about what it is he does. But I encourage everybody, if you haven't shared this video yet, that you share it now. You may be saving a life. So if you could bring up, please, Matthew Doc Perry.
Good morning, Deb. How are you?
Good. How are you, Doc?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me this morning.
Thank you. What you do is so important. People need to know about it. So please share. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, my name is Matthew Doc Perry. I'm the founder and managing director of the Currahee Project. Currahee is a Native American term that was adopted by the 101st Airborne during World War II, ironically, in Camp Toccoa. And it is a Native American term that means we stand alone together. And I thought it was a very apropos kind of a battle cry for us as well, as it was adopted by the Airborne, as we very much do stand alone together in several subject matters. It was born out of, I basically took a whole lot of anger and rage and being upset over the loss of 4 of my brother Marines in 1 year to suicide. And I kind of tried to channel it into something positive. I've been around for 2 years now, and we try to bring awareness to the veteran suicide epidemic and to the veterans homeless situation, particularly in Rhode Island and Southeast Massachusetts.
So tell me, when you talk about veteran suicide and being really angry and frustrated, is that part of having served? Is that a natural part of having served in our military? And how do you deal with coming home?
To be perfectly honest with you, it's a little bit of column A being what I brought home in my head, and a little bit of dealing exceptionally intimately with the mess that my brothers left behind when they took their lives. Those that took their lives, and that. When you have to deal with grieving mothers and orphans, literally orphans children, it tends to get you a little bit riled up. There's a little bit of hurt, a lot of hurt, obviously, but then there becomes a little bit of anger as well that comes with that. I myself, as far as my journey home, some warriors leave and they are literally able to flip a switch when they leave, and they're able to, in a very healthy way, excuse me, allergies, in a very healthy way, compartmentalize their service in a positive way, no matter what horrific thing they saw. And there's other people, and I would have to admit that I fall into this category, that for whatever reason, they just were not able to flip that switch off, and they kind of live trying to adjust themselves to a civilian life. Which actually, if you'll allow me, one analogy that I like to make with people is you oftentimes hear, oh, well, he's antisocial or she's antisocial, that being a veteran that's returned. And I like to liken it this way with you, Deb. If I put you in a room, or if you put me in a room with you and 49 other civilians, I assure you that I'm going to seem like I don't want to hang out, because I can't relate to half the things that you're saying and you're talking about, because my perspective as a veteran is much different. So it comes across as being antisocial. But Deb, if I put you in a room with 49 veterans and we're all laughing and yucking it up, and we're talking about things that you can't seem to relate to, you will isolate yourself a little bit. And I hope that makes sense. So it's not that we're antisocial, it's we're anti-your social, if that kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's just, so when we come across it, and that's a difficult thing, and it takes some veterans many years to be able to feel that comfort level again once they return.
Yeah, and I actually have been in that situation. There's a wonderful veterans networking group, and I have been in it. And I am acutely aware that I am the only civilian. I will say the veterans work really hard to make me feel comfortable as a civilian who really supports what they do. So that was really cool. But I absolutely can understand how a veteran in the reverse situation might not feel comfortable. And so when we talk about veteran suicide, how often does it happen? Who's doing it? How are they doing it? And I think most importantly, what can we as a community do to prevent it?
I don't know
That's
which
a
one of
lot.
which one of those 6 questions I should start with first, but who does it? It's across the well, right now I'll start off with this. Currently, the branches and services are veteran suicides are up 20% versus
Wow.
this time last year. 20%. The Army is up 30%. The National Guard and Reserve components are up 10%. The Air Force is unchanged, and you would think that that's a good thing, except it's unchanged from a 3-decade high.
Oh, God.
The Navy is unchanged, though their numbers are fairly high, and the Marine Corps does not release their numbers. I have no say in that. Does it? There's 3 general groups that we look at. There's the immediate returning vet that it happens rather quickly within the first couple of years of their discharge.
Mhm.
You're looking at a second group being middle-aged, kind of 40, early 50 years old, where your kids are starting to move out, graduate from college. Now you are focusing less on raising your family and your career, and now you really have to deal with things that you've been kind of keeping suppressed for a few years. And then there is the group of people that we're reaching out to today, which is the completely retired and elder portion of our community, because now you are throwing in a culmination of things. You're throwing in the kids, your empty nesters, your kids have completely moved out. Then even worse, there's the loss of a spouse. Now you are really alone in your thoughts. You are really faced with talking about or thinking about things that you've really suppressed. And through the entire process, and I'm in therapy for my PTSD every week. I have no shame in admitting that. But you don't know what you've suppressed, and you forget what you've forgotten. And it tends to hit you like a freight train. And after 50 years of suppressing it, 60 years of suppressing it, and not talking to anybody, it tends to hit the elder community a little higher, or at least as significant as you would think the 20-year-old population. Female warriors are currently, I believe, are 13 to 14% more likely to be successful in committing their suicide. The other statistic, and this will answer a couple questions, hopefully. Many people watching are well aware of Congressman Langevin from the state of Rhode Island, and that he is stricken to a wheelchair. And I had shared this statistic with him when it was really only maybe a week and a half to 2 weeks old, and it is a Department of Veterans Affairs statistic. Lord help me, when I told him this in a meeting that we had together, when he leaned back in his wheelchair, I thought he was going to fall backwards. And I don't mean that to be funny, like it was really took him back. So brace yourself. According to the VA itself, 70%, 7 out of every 10 veteran suicides are not even in the VA system. Think about that for a second, 70%. And now the immediate question that you ask yourself is why? And the shortest answer that I can give you, it's quite simple. If Private Burton gets out and she gets offered a great job from General Dynamics, and she has medical, dental, vision, everything she needs through Blue Cross Blue Shield or whomever, you go to your doctor, okay? Whatever doctor, your primary care doctor you go to, chances are they're not trained to recognize a veteran that's in distress. And it's a generalization, but it's a broad and fair generalization to make in this particular case. However, the Department of Veterans Affairs, it doesn't matter if you're going to a dental hygienist, if you're going to a psychologist, or your primary care provider. They're all trained to recognize a veteran in distress. So you could go to your doctor for 20, 25 years, a civilian doctor, and you could be in obvious distress. However, they don't recognize that. Whereas a VA doctor will recognize that. And if people get good medical and dental, quote unquote, good medical and dental when they get out of the service, and all they have heard are horror stories about the VA, why would they bother getting health care otherwise? Not realizing 2 things that I find to be barriers. Number one, the horror stories that you hear. Another thing that and they're much fewer and far between than people will tell. And anybody that actually knows me well knows that I actually was given a scar by the VA. Thank you very much, because I had to wait 19 days for a dental abscess. So, in all fairness, there in some ways I don't have a lot of love for the VA. However, I cannot deny that the work that they do is invaluable, and they have actually reached out to the Currahee Project in the form of, and here's the answer to hopefully, I believe, a fourth or a fifth part of your question. And I'm surely jesting with you. I mean it. Learning this statistic themselves, they realize that the only way that you can really fix this as best as you can, and this is not a statement of political ideology, it just is that they have accepted the fact that the government cannot fix this particular problem. And that a grassroots effort, e.g., nonprofits like myself, the Matthew Patton Foundation, which also works with veteran suicide, and several others throughout the state of Rhode Island and Southeast Massachusetts, we have much more of a finger on our pulse of the local population of veterans. And that the best way to reach out, if you visit our page on Facebook, if you visit our website, curraheeproject.org, we constantly reach out and let people know that it's okay to not be okay and to talk to us. And for civilians, if you know a veteran, and everybody that watches this, I'm going to turn everybody into a Currahee Project volunteer today, because I guarantee you vital parts of my anatomy, and that's a bold statement, and every single person that watches this knows a veteran. All I ask of you is to call them, go to their house, go bring them a coffee. Even if you don't, it's the woman or the gentleman across the street that's flying an American flag in a specific branch of service, and they've got veteran plates. Walk across the street to say, hi, how you doing? Thinking about you, hope you're doing okay. And the other caveat that I would add, a couple actually, this goes both ways, is number one, you don't have to be a psychologist or a psychologist. You don't have to have the right words to say. Sometimes all you have to do is listen. Sometimes all you have to do is just sit there and sit beside the veteran and the warrior. And so they just know that they're not alone. Now, if I could add to this, everybody, just about everybody that watches this, I guarantee, has been to your local diner, something like your Newport Creamery or your breakfast diner, where they've got booths, but they also have the counter where everybody sits at, and it's usually the regulars or the cool kids that all sit at that. And they're guaranteed that there's always a veteran or two. And you will always see after, say, again, Private Burton, she's sitting there, she's having her breakfast, and something just seems a little bit off. And she pays for her breakfast and she leaves, and everybody, that the regular there, kind of looks at you and says, hey, did you guys notice that seems a little bit off? Did anybody else notice that? She hasn't been herself for a couple of days. Look, when you start hearing people say, oh, it's okay, we've seen Deb like this before, she's having a tough time, it's Veterans Day, it's Memorial Day, it's an anniversary, but she's gotten through it before. No, that is the wrong answer. If you sense that a veteran that is local is in distress, reach out to them. Take them aside. Say, how you doing? You just don't seem yourself. And I'm not trying to pry. Whatever it is you want to do, but don't leave them feel alone to fend for themselves. Because there's only so many of those times that can happen before you start to get in worse and worse distress. So when we talk about a grassroots effort, that's the most simplified way that I can explain how we can only fix this with a grassroots effort.
Wow. I gotta say that was a really good visual image. And just to clarify with everybody, I'm not military, I am civilian.
No,
but you know what? I have a diner right up the street from my house. And yeah, there's groups there who meet on a regular basis. I got a Dunkin' around the corner. And I think what you just said was very powerful. Don't just say, oh, they'll be okay. And one of the things too is many of our veterans are caregivers, but also many of our veterans, our older veterans in particular, may be care recipients.
Correct.
And there's a lot of stress with that. So Can you speak anything about the caregiver stress involved and how that can have some really negative outcomes?
The biggest problem that I find with caregivers is they always have the biggest heart, and therefore they don't take time for themselves. They don't reach out. They certainly fall into the category of it's okay to not be okay, not necessarily from a post-traumatic stress point of view or combat trauma point of view, but from the point of view of the incredible amount of pressure and stress and the way it just alters your entire lifestyle. And I am very seriously paraphrasing here. I can tell you a couple of very intimate stories, and I'm glad that you prefaced this interview with this is a very raw interview, because these are things that people need to hear, not for woe is me reasons, but they just need to know what's going on. My again, much of what I do is born out of channeling a lot of emotion into something very positive as I can. In the first week of November last year, my son's grandmother, who is the caregiver to his grandfather, who is a Vietnam-era Green Beret, served in the foothills of Vietnam with the Montagnards, so he was very, very involved, but had end-stage Parkinson's. Gentleman was 6'3", about 240 pounds. She was a very frail woman. And it all got to be too much for her because it became that she was under the false impression that if he went into a full-term care facility, which is what he needed, that she would be stricken to a $600 a month budget was one major thing. In other words, not knowing the facts. It became too much for her, and she took her life via firearm. My son's grandmother took her life via firearm, and she was a caregiver for a veteran. The other side of it is one of my brother Marines took his life and perished himself about a month ago. And his parents are elderly from the point of view of they're over 80. His mother had a stroke about a year ago. And during his funeral services, I won't get into detail, but it was only Don and Carol. Justin was cremated. So you're underneath the overhead with the honor guard on each side of the urn, and Don was sitting there by himself. The reason being is Carol couldn't get out of the car because of her stroke. So I took a knee for about 45 minutes and held her hand as she sobbed uncontrollably, obviously due to the loss of her son who took his life. Now, Don is now the caregiver of his wife and was beginning to be the caregiver of Justin as we were learning of some of his medical problems and his issues with depression and whatnot.
You froze a little bit there, Doc. I am so moved by those stories. And I think one of the things that really pushes me to do this is that these things are happening and there are resources out there, and getting people connected to the help and resources that are out there to make sure that people don't feel the need that they're abandoned, that we care about them.
Very important.
So that it's not, like Doc was saying, that the veteran has taken his life and left the family and friends around.
To give you an idea of just how bad it can be, if you
froze.
Visit curraheeproject.org, there is a video.
You're freezing up there, Doc. Somehow the internet became unstable. I think sometimes, when we're speaking from the heart, it changes the wavelengths, and it can hiccup the internet capability. But I think, you have to be in a very bad spot if you feel that your only alternative is to take your life. And unfortunately, it's not something that people necessarily recognize that they're in a bad spot. So when you do see those things, those little withdrawals from people, you want to reach out to them. And sorry, you're back again, Doc.
Well, I closed a couple of windows. I hope that helps. Before I cut off, the big thing is remembering the message you leave behind. One of my brother Marines, he was actually the first one of the for that in the year April 17 to April 18 that took his life. But with that said, his wife had taken her life via overdose maybe a year and a half before he passed away, and they had a little girl, Daphne. And when he took his life, he orphaned his little girl. He was a only child to his parents in Maryland, in Riva, Maryland, and now his parents, who have long since retired, are now back raising a teenage girl in high school. Like, not back to raising, but they're now raising a teenage girl in high school because of that one selfish act that Ty took. And if you go to the Currahee Project website, curraheeproject.org, the gentleman who Deb, we both know, Dave England, phenomenal website designer, did great work for both of us, I know. He kind of caught me by surprise when he was filming and asked me about Ty. And it's a very raw video. If you get a chance to watch it, if you can check it out, it's I won't take up too much time now, but it really goes to show how much one person taking their life will affect so many others.
There's a significant ripple effect. When it comes to caregivers, November is National Caregivers Month, and Stephanie Culhane brought up that the AARP is sponsoring a free event called the Caregivers Journey Conference, and that's the caregiversjourneyconference.org, where you can find that information out. So what can the Currahee Project do for people to reduce the likelihood of them attempting and or completing suicide?
A very good question, Deb. I think a lot of that is basic outreach. First of all, keep doing what we're doing. Our basic, I like to put it this way. There's if you go to the big blue box and you want to build a birdhouse, there's someone in a vest that points you to the lumber aisle. Oh, the lumber's that one. And you get your lumber, you pick it out, and you say, well, wait a minute, I need nails, I think. Oh, yeah, and somebody else who you don't know points you to the nail aisle. And then once you get there, say, oh, wait a minute, I want to paint this thing. And then somebody paints you, you understand? But many of us remember the old mom and pop store where you walked in and you said, hey, Deb, I want to build a birdhouse. Deb walked you to the lumber aisle and helped you pick out the best pine. And she walked you to the fastener aisle to pick out the best nails and screws. And she walked you to the paint aisle to pick out whatever paint color that you wanted. Okay, and then the dowel for the stem coming out and everything. So that by the time you got to the counter, you were ready to build a birdhouse factory because you knew everything you needed to know. That's the approach that the Currahee Project takes when a veteran comes into our realm. And also in that point, I will also say that it's never just one item. It's never just I'm in distress and at the point where I may become suicidal, or it's always a little bit of something. It's not just psychosomatic distress, it's financial distress, relationship, housing. There's always a bunch of things. So when you reach out to the Currahee Project, we even have we have resources like Rhode Island Elder Care. It's just we can help out in many ways. Due to COVID, and one of the things that we prided ourselves on was our ability to go out and actually visit veterans, either in a nursing home setting or in the example I'll give you is in the veterans home. Rhode Island Veterans Home reached out to the Currahee Project and said, believe it or not, we don't have enough staff members on Sunday to wheel our veterans in wheelchairs to church for their ecumenical services. Can you send some volunteers? So we had approximately 3 of us every weekend that would do that. And it was our community outreach. Our direct community outreach, excuse me. In the days of COVID now, though, we are exceptionally limited in our ability to help veterans in that capacity with face-to-face intervention. We can meet like this, it's not the same. We can talk on the phone, it's not the same, though we still do it. But with that said, the way we found best to do this, and also this falls into mitigating homelessness as well, but it's mostly taking one less stressor off of the list of stressors that veterans have, and that's food. we have partnered with the St. John's Food Pantry in Portsmouth. And for the past approximately 9 weeks, I think straight, I'm losing track, forgive me. We have partnered with Zebra Foods in Bristol, in particular, their branch, their grocery store in Bristol. And we have been procuring and bringing to the pantry approximately 500 to 600 pounds of food a week. I fill up the back of my pickup truck with banana boxes that are filled with canned goods, dried goods. We're focusing on 2 particular products that we buy the entire bulk amount for the week for the pantry for. So it's one less thing. In other words, it's their peanut butter and their canned fruit and water. There's certain particular items that go in every single box and go in every single bag. And we've come to the conclusion that if one entity covers just one item and they can count on that every single week, then it's a lot easier to build a plan around, to build menus around, to build, that sort of thing around. So the Currahee Project picks up all the peanut butter, we pick up all the canned fruit currently, and then whatever's left over in our $500 budget after that, we will go and purchase food that's, 3 for $5, and whatever's on sale that's of a need of the pantry. The thought process being that there's going to be a list of things I could give you, Deb, that would be that one straw that breaks the camel's back. Very, very easily, specifically in the days of COVID, when you talk about job loss in particular. Thinking about your family not having any food, thinking about you not having any food, thinking about anybody that you contributed to and you are responsible for them having food in their belly, and you not being able to provide that, that's more than enough of a stressor to have you make some bad decisions, which we obviously don't want you to do. So right now, the best thing we're doing to mitigate what we can is we're taking part in the Governor's Suicide Prevention Challenge with several other nonprofits in the state. We are continuing to donate to the St. John's Food Pantry, $500 via food, $500 a week. As a matter of fact, Deb, when we tie this up, we may actually do another Facebook live feed because I'm going to be driving to Zebra to pick up 200 frozen turkeys for Thanksgiving, to make sure that all the families that have asked for a turkey get that. We've done the math. It actually worked out well. We started out with $500 budget a week. That thank the Lord for the benefactors that we've had, because when this started, I did not have that much money in our bank account. I just made a lot of phone calls, and basically the only expenditures that the Currahee Project has are the office that we operate out of and the office for the computer and telephone, and that's sponsored. I don't draw a salary. I don't even put gas in my truck for transportation. Nobody that's involved with the Currahee Project takes a salary. So right now, all of the money that we've been able to raise is strictly going to the food pantry.
So are you a nonprofit?
Oh, absolutely. We're a legitimate 501c3 recognized from the IRS. We're also registered with the Secretary of State. We have a legitimate and full-serving board of directors that is very involved, and I'm very grateful for their involvement. And yes, we have. Yep, we're completely legitimate.
And I wanted to ask, you're Matthew Doc Perry. Are you a doc?
I'm a Fleet Marine Force medic that went Marine Corps regulations, which means I wear Marine Corps uniforms with Navy rank, so that really messes with people. But I served in a Marine Corps Raider company, which is basically those crazy guys that hop into little rubber boats and go ahead and we do what we need to do. I happen to have the honor of having served in the most highly decorated company in the most highly decorated battalion in the history of the Marine Corps, which I say with great pride. I wear the Fleet Marine Force breast insignia, which they don't just give away. I'm very, very proud of my service, clearly, but it came at a cost. And you can clearly see from the history of the fact that I've lost 7 of my brothers. And this is, again, from just one company of one generation of Marines, 7 to suicide alone. 6 of them just being in the past approximately 3 years. I'm losing one every 6 months.
That's awful. And so just to recap, what should people do and what kind of help do you need?
We need, first of all, the biggest help that you can do is, like I said earlier, I'm going to turn everyone into a Currahee Project volunteer. That doesn't have to be a one-off thing. If there's a specific veteran, a specific warrior that you know that you can check in on once a week, once every other week, continue to do that. That's the first level of volunteerism that you can do, which is going to have the greatest impact via the grassroots effort that we spoke of earlier. The other way, and it is the most obvious one, is to donate. If you go to the curraheeproject.org page, there is a donate button. And I assure you, every dime, nickel, and penny that goes to us right now is going towards the food pantry, making sure that that's taken care of. Right now, we've managed to get ourselves just over the first of the year. So for the holidays, we're going to be able to continue to provide food. But I almost beg of you to go the donation route in two ways. Financially, and again, that goes, and that's also the reason that we went with a 501c3, not a C4, is because it's 501c3 IRS recognized. You can write off that donation as a charitable donation. So anything that your organization or you as an individual can donate financially, you can write off, and we will give all the paperwork. The other thing is, if you can, in our current situation, and I thought of this on the fly, that's why I asked you, Deb, hit me with questions I'm not anticipating. If you or anyone you know has the ability to get some flats of canned food, get some flats of things that are non-perishable items, and help us out by donating either through us, I'll drive anywhere to come pick up food in my truck. And you can donate that way. If you can get someplace to put a food box out, that would be extremely helpful, because I'm not going to lie to you. I had a full head of hair about 10 weeks ago, and I am extremely stressed. I'm telling you, and it's a great burden thinking about even the possibility that we're not going to be able to continue on with these donations, because the simple fact of the matter is it's not going to get any better. I don't remember specifically which bank it is. I want to say it's like a Wells Fargo comes to mind, but they have actually had commercials on TV saying that they've turned a couple of their drive-throughs into drive-through food pantries.
Wow.
And when you stop and you think, and I hate to, I know if you weren't feeling sad before, I definitely didn't bring sunshine to your day. I at least brought some information. But unfortunately, specifically in the area that we live, there are jobs that are never coming back due to the tourism industry taking the shellacking that they have. And people have gone through their unemployment benefits. We all of a sudden have 200 to 300 people a week that are coming through a pop-up food pantry. All of a sudden, this is something that's going to be in perpetuity for as long as I can see. So the financial support is great. If you can manage to get some food together, it's a great photo opportunity for everybody involved if you do it as an organization and whatnot, because let's face it, our donors, our sponsors, the people that make our dreams possible, they like to see what we're doing. So if you're an organization and you can get that together, that would be great. If you can pick a Wednesday or a Friday, and I say Wednesday and Friday because that's the only days that they're open. So if you show up any other day of the week, you're going to be lonely. But Wednesday or a Friday at the St. John's Food Pantry at 81 Sprague Street in Portsmouth. If you live anywhere around Aquidneck Island, or more particular, Mount Hope Bridge, because it's pretty much at the base of the Mount Hope Bridge. It's only a couple miles, not the base, about a mile away from Mount Hope Bridge. If you can volunteer on a Wednesday or a Friday to come and help out, the volunteers there are absolutely amazing. They really are. We've gotten a couple of fresh faces, but the fact of the matter is they're doing God's work there, in the cold, in the warm. When it's there, and they could use some help. We could always use an extra pair of hands. That's about the most direct ways that you can help. And I know I gave you several, but the reason I do that is people have different ways that they can help. Some people were a lot wiser than me, and they were much better with their finances, but they can't leave their house because they're infirmed, or they just can't move around as well. So maybe that's the best way they can help is financially. Some people, they are looking for a reason to get out of the house and feel like they're contributing to the community again. Please go to the food pantry. Some of you have gotten away from community organization a little bit more than you want to. Organize some folks together and get some non-perishable items together to help us donate. And I like to joke, I tell this to my friends that I know they love to golf, is, you know, you'll have a golf tournament, a charity golf tournament, and you'll cough up for a foursome $125 a piece for a foursome. Well, find 4 of your friends that'll cough up $125 and make a $500 block donation for 1 week's worth of food. I like to give people options because it's really easy to say, checkbook, I need your checkbook, but that's not really all I need. I need your mentorship. If you have an idea for me to procure more food, to procure more funding, you know, any of the above. To me, knowledge is an in-kind donation. So anything you can do to help folks, please, I'm very open to anything.
This has been great, Doc. I really appreciate you coming on. And I think, you know, you've brought up a lot of things, a lot of meat for people to chew on. And I
hope
really,
so.
Yeah, I really hope. I really hope this reaches the people who need to hear it. And, you know, we talked about a really hard subject, but, you know, I don't see it as a dark cloud. I see it as rays of sunshine, because your program's there and it's helping people. It's making a difference. It would be dark if you weren't there. And so you are there.
Thank you.
So it's not negative. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome. And remember, folks, it's okay to not be okay. Just reach out. And we stand alone together. Thank you very much, Deb.
Thank you, Doc.
Cheers.
Cheers. Well, everybody, as Doc said, you see those neighbors out there with their veteran plates and flying their flags, and you see them at the coffee shop. If you see something unusual, stop in, check in with them. Don't let them walk away. Right now, we are facing unprecedented situations with our holidays. We're separated from our families. We're separated from our friends. That can make things all the more stressful. Like Doc was saying, there are people out there who have lost their jobs and they don't have food, and the Currahee Project works to resolve that. So reach out to one another. Really think about what is important. You know, next week is Thanksgiving. And I think one thing COVID has done is it's really brought to mind the things that maybe we've taken for granted in other years. The ability to hug our friends, to have Friendsgiving, to be able to get together, to be able to go do, you know, the big crazy shopping. And it's really allowed us an opportunity to focus on the things that are important to us. And so I encourage everybody, check in with your neighbors, check in with your friends. If they're a veteran, call and say hello, see how things are going. You know, you talk about, you know, getting a flat of canned goods. I can tell you at the big blue box store, if you get their value brand, cans of carrots and string beans are 50 cents a piece. So for a flat, it's a whopping $6. Let's face it, many of us are working from home now. We're saving that money, not going through the drive-thru, grabbing our morning coffee. So if we can, we're all in this together. And that's one of the things that is a firm belief from our Elder Info, is that we are all in this together and we all have to help one another. So I look forward to seeing everybody next week. I hope that you have liked this video. I hope that you have shared this video. If you need more information, you can always reach out to rielderinfo.com. You can always call me at 401-585-0509. I answer the phone. I'm happy to provide whatever information. Don't feel like you're alone out there. There is help available. And of course, it's okay to not be okay. Reach out to the Currahee Project if you need help. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a blessed Thanksgiving, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you.